Hello one and all, and welcome to Seen Through Glass. This is the new Aston Martin Vantage Roadster. Can I just ask, do you think this is a good looking car? I can't decide. One minute I look at it and I'm like, oh, and then the next minute I'm like, Important thing to note, this is actually a US specification Vantage Roadster. Originally, Aston Martin planned to launch the car in California, but then because of COVID, that couldn't happen. And the early press cars they built, which were US spec, have ended up staying here in the UK, and that's why I'm driving a US car in the UK. European UK viewers will notice the slightly dodgy rear bumper, the side reflectors, and the fact it's left-hand drive. The other elephant in the room about this car is the fact it's piss yellow. I'm not sure that's the official colour code, but well, you know what's weird? I think I actually spec'd up a Vantage Coupe in this colour using the online configurator, and it looked good. You're right, Twiggy? But yeah, it looked good on the computer, but in real life, well, it looks like wee. But I quite like it. Is that weird? I think it might be a bit weird. Now you can get the new Roadster with a slightly different grille, but this one has the more standard new Vantage grille. And apart from the folding roof, everything else looks pretty familiar to the Vantage Coupe. And despite the fact it's a little bit chilly today, hence the woolly hat, it's actually a beautiful sunny day in the UK in October, kind of mad. And when you've got a convertible Aston Martin and it's a sunny day in the UK, there's only one thing to do: jump in and go for a drive. Now this car has the 8-speed auto gearbox. You can also option a manual with the Vantage Roadster, which is apparently a little bit more leery and potentially more fun, but I quite like the huge flappy paddles you get in the auto. Park, reverse, neutral, drive, and the start-stop button are all down here. Then you've got the big old Mercedes infotainment system, which I'm not really a fan of, but I'm going to look past. Drive mode select buttons are here on the steering wheel. On the right, kind of performance, which we've got Sport, Sport Plus, and Track. On the left, suspension, where we've got Sport, Sport Plus, and Track. No comfort mode in the Vantage or Vantage Roadster. That's because Aston see this as their sports car. The DB11, their GT car, and the DBS, their Super GT. But having spent 24 hours in this car already, the only way to really enjoy it, especially with the roof down, is in track mode. Most of you will know that these days the Aston Martin Vantage is actually powered by an AMG 4-litre bi-turbo V8, but it is tuned by Aston, and somehow they make it sound like this. It is outrageous, even in sport mode, the most standard of modes. Oh, it still sounds throaty and it bangs and it pops, but in track, it is just so angry, and that is what you want from, firstly, your Aston Martin, but secondly, a roof down Aston, because it's so exhilarating. You know what? It reminds me a bit of my F-Type, and it's so quick, this car. They only added 60 kilos to the overall weight for the Roadster, which is pretty impressive. There's a lot of other work to try and make it feel as much like the Coupe as possible. If I'm honest, it kind of does. If you've never driven the new Aston Martin Vantage, go and have a go, because they are so good. I don't think the sort of used market has looked very kindly upon them, mainly because Aston probably overpriced the new Vantage. In my mind, it should have always been 95 grand plus options, but instead putting it up at 125, 130, and once spec'd 150 odd, it's just too much. So they've lost a lot of money, people kind of lost confidence in them. But as a car, it's so good and such a great car to drive on the road. Okay, fine, at 150 grand, when you start competing against 911 turbos and even McLaren 570Ss, gets a bit overshadowed. But as a fun, I'm going to call it a GT/sports car, it is brilliant, and the soundtrack is so good. So yes, I'm in track when it comes to kind of performance, that's acceleration and engine and etc, but I've actually left suspension in its softest setting, sport. It's not too bad, actually the ride is pretty nice, but we're on a sort of bumpy English road, and when you start to step it up, things get a bit, well, twerky. Twerky? Should I call a car twerky? I'm not really sure. Now, whilst I said that Aston see this as their sports car, and I just said it's one of the best on the road sort of sports GT cars you can imagine, I actually see it as a baby GT, especially this Roadster, because I just caught up with a van and some traffic, and actually it allows me to enjoy this car in kind of the way that I've been enjoying it the most. Cruising with elongated accelerations, slowly making my way through the rev range, not manic accelerations trying to get the back end to step out, which it will if you turn traction off. Traction on is very intrusive, like unbearably intrusive. So if you want this to be a bit tail happy and naughty, you've got to go full traction off, at which point be careful, because it will step out pretty easily. And I remember that from Paul with his AMG GTS. Like, this engine, the characteristics of it mean that it's, yeah, you just get a lot of torque quite, and Aston have done their tune to make it sort of more drivable, more Aston-like, but it's still got some of those AMG characteristics. Now, I actually want to do a sneaky turn around here if I can get away with it, because as you could probably tell, that section of road was a pretty good one. Oh, reverse. It's just, oh, I could spend months, years in this car. It is absolutely, there you go. Traction limited the whole time. I should have turned traction off there. But anyway, here's a straight. Listen to this. Honestly, they have heightened the experience or the exhilaration or something by taking the roof off this car. I already really liked the Vantage Coupe. Important for me to say that, and you all know I'm a big Aston fan, but by taking the roof off, it just has suddenly become a much more engaging driving experience, and almost it's found its own character, its own personality. Whilst I think some people maybe drove the coupe and went, oh well, why wouldn't you just get a C63 or an AMG GT? This now feels kind of Aston, in the sense that, as I say, I don't really want to absolutely nail it everywhere. Instead, I want to do long accelerations, allow that exhaust to bellow and say, yes, I'm on my way, Phoebe, prepare the pheasant. Now, negatives. There are unfortunately a handful. You may have noticed during that clip, one of the glove boxes popped open. That just seems to keep happening. Also, there are some panel gaps and lines around this car which are fundamentally quite atrocious. I'm not sure if this is a pre-production car or, just a press car that's not, well, I'm making excuses, aren't I? Also, some of the electronics inside have just been a bit sticky every now and again. I've gone for buttons and they haven't always worked, and that Mercedes infotainment system, I personally just really don't like it. And then finally, on the key, you're supposed to be able to hold down the lock and unlock button to operate the roof from when you're outside. For filming, fantastic, but also as you're walking up to the car after maybe going to see your friends like that, it'd be quite cool to be able to hold the key and the roof go down, but that's worked once. I've tried doing it 8 times. It's worked once. And as I say, because of the price point that Aston keep pushing this Vantage towards, at a base level, the Roadster starts at 125 grand. You're competing against other cars which do all these things with their eyes closed. And whilst I adore this car, and I think it's now got the character that it needs to identify itself as an Aston Martin, there are these other little small elements which maybe they need to work on a little bit to warrant that price tag, or just make it cheaper. Just make it 95 grand, then everyone will be happy. I mean, because I think the used cars at that value are trading like everyone wants them at that price, so just make them cheaper. Then we can all go out and buy them. So surprise, surprise, another Aston Martin that I want. I think I might pick the Roadster over the coupe of this new shape Vantage. I'm honestly enjoying this so much. Okay, fine, it helps that the sun is shining today, but to be honest, even with the roof up, the car is still so capable. Let's see if I can get out of this, oh, big truck. Nearly lost my life there, and nearly rode off the press Vantage. Oh, it just flies, this thing. Get the music blasting, you're on a long stretch of road ahead of you, and you're always comfortable. It's such a nice place to be. And you can still say, I drive an Aston with pride. I think you'll keep up with most things as well, honestly. It is a great car, this car, and a surprise because I'm not always someone who loves a convertible, but it's really opened my eyes. I think if you can get out there and have a go at one of these things, and then maybe wait until they lose their inevitable 50 grand off list, you're going to end up with a pretty mega car. Now, the only thing I wanted to say, just to bolt on to the end of this video, is we've seen some initial photos now of Aston's V12 Speedster, their kind of rival to the Ferrari Monza or the McLaren Elva. And it's got a lot of elements from this shape Vantage. What I don't know is what chassis it's based on, because forever Aston said they weren't going to be able to get a V12 in this car, in this new Vantage. But that Speedster suggests maybe otherwise. And can you imagine roof down with this chassis, this setup of this new Vantage, but with a V12? I'm not sure it's going to happen. The world's changed, but if it did, I would be a very, very happy man. Oh, I'm going to be sad giving this car back. Luckily, I got it for another 2 or 3 days to enjoy here in the UK, and apparently it's not going to rain. I mean, this could get very expensive. Magnitude Finance, stand by your phones once again, as per usual. But as I say, I'm realistic in the fact that it's going to be once these things are used and have dropped a bit cost-wise. Oh, bloody hell. I just want to take photos of this thing all day. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure you stay subscribed for plenty more videos to come.